Welcome back to the Tool Crib. Today we are going to be looking at the Roxon Spark. This is a entry-level multi-tool basically. It's going to be about a $25 multi-tool, but it is full size. Now some of the things on here, I really like how they integrated them. I like the design that they put together with this particular multi-tool. And then like with most Chinese manufactured multi-tools, there's going to be some things that I don't like as much, but we'll get into that. First, let's get into the specs, and then we'll go through the tool set. Now, some of the functions on here, I've tried most everything on here, but I'm going to do a few of them on camera for you to kind of show you, give you my thoughts on what this tool is all about. Let's get into the Roxon Spark. So I've brought in my black on black Leatherman Charge Plus just because they're both black themed, not because they're comparable to one another, but just to give you a size comparison. So the Roxon Spark, 8.2 ounces or about 235 grams. It's a little bit longer than the Wave Charge platform at 4 3/16 of an inch or about 106 millimeters. The width on it, widest point is 1 11/16 or about 43 millimeters, and the thickness is 7/8 of an inch or about 22 millimeters. So it's a little bit bulkier than the Wave Charge series overall. Okay, let's get into the tool set. I want to point out first that the case that comes with this is just a little nylon case with a really minuscule piece of hook and loop there. And the back is nothing to speak much of as, either. It does carry in vertical only, but it's actually stitched pretty decent, I guess. So, I don't know, the case is pretty not great. So we'll just set that to the side. But the good thing about this is it has an integrated pocket clip, and that is actually one of the good things about it. So we're going to start off with the knife blade, and the knife blade. Okay, so here's the steels that they use in this. So the main tools, the regular tools, are going to be in a 2CR13. The knife steel is, unfortunately, is just a 3CR13. And they claim that the pliers, and I don't know if that's the pliers themselves or the cutters. They claim those to be in at a CM1349, and I don't know anything about CM1349. I really probably should have researched that particular steel a little bit. 2CR, you see that a lot in these Chinese models for the rest of their tools. Sometimes they'll put a 3CR in that steel, and it goes up to a 5CR13 or MOV or an 8CR13 MOV for their knife steel. But this particular one is a pretty soft steel at a 3CR13. So let me rip off a page here, and this thing did not come out very sharp at all, so we'll see if it'll cut now. I mean, I got it to cut somewhat. You can kind of see that, I guess if you hit it just right, it's decently sharp. I haven't used a knife blade much. It just, the blade shape I do like. I like it over that Tonto style blade that they've been putting in some of their other multi-tools. But the blade steel is really soft. Now, can you resharpen it? Yeah, you can probably put an edge on it and it'll sharpen up quite nicely because it's pretty soft, but you're not going to be able to hold that edge for very long. One good thing about it is it has a little thumb stud here, and it is very solidly liner locked, so that is a positive. Now, these three outer tools, the great thing about them is every one of these is actually locked. So it has a release mechanism that's right here, which is actually pretty okay. I like how they did that. So let's look at the first tool. It's going to be a combo tool. All this actually works pretty decently. It's a little funky, you know, how they put that together, but it all works pretty good. So they got a little screwdriver up front, which that screwdriver tip was done well enough. They have the integrated can opener, which can opener, I've tried it on one can and it seemed to work just fine. Little bit, just a little, you could feel that it was a little soft is all. And the bottle cap lifter integrated on the bottom, and it all works decent enough. And again, locks in place. Next tool over is their Phillips driver. Now this one, on the other hand, we're going to try a couple of these here on camera here in a little bit. It's a little soft, so I mean, it's okay. It'll do little light task, but beyond that, maybe not much. Next tool is the awl. The awl reamer that they have on here, this is probably one of the better tools that they have on here. Even though it's in a 2CR steel, it actually does okay. I've tried this one, used it a couple times. It makes a pretty decent hole in wood. Haven't tried it trying to punch leather. And then the scraper functionality works pretty decent on it as well. Now we get around, let's see, the pocket clip. The only thing I have a complaint about the pocket clip is that it's not a deep carry, because they put that, it's pinned here and then they have a little screw to hold it in. So it rides pretty high in the pocket. That's the only complaint I have about it. Now the handle itself is a glass fiber reinforced, and it feels okay. It really does. I kind of like the feel of this particular multi-tool. There's really no hot spots on it to speak of. Now, one cool tool that they have on here, and honestly, I think they actually do this a little better than the Leatherman Signal. And you can see I've tried it. So it's got a little fire steel with an integrated whistle, and you can actually get some purchase on this to actually use it. And we're going to check that out here after a while as well. Now the next tool, this one is really not good. Really not good. This is a little saw. You got about it's a little less than 2-inch saw. The teeth pattern on here, not done really well. Just did not, it was just more trouble than what it was worth to try to use this saw. But it is liner lock. Now this is one of the areas where they could have very easily improved this particular multi-tool, and we'll bring in the other Roxon model to kind of highlight that. Now if we get it opened up, we have spring-loaded pliers. The pliers themselves, they have a little bit more flex in them than I like. They come down to a decent enough point. Decent needle nose, decent regular pliers. Now when we get into the wire cutters and the hard wire cutter, it's not great. There could be some improvement there, and I think, I don't know why it doesn't cut very well at all. It just doesn't seem to. And I think the biggest reason is because there's little to no relief behind the cutters to speak of. So let's bring in some stuff, and we're going to try out a couple of these functions, show you what the Roxon Spark will do. So the first thing I want to try out is they got this, the awl and that little screwdriver. We just want to see if it'll do a really simple task. So we're going to ream a hole in here. Let me get this in an angle where you guys can see it. That awl works pretty good, actually. It really gets in there really, really well. I like the fact that it's locked in place too. Now, the only thing I've used this screwdriver on so far is just some really lightweight stuff. I haven't even tried anything this strong on it, so we'll see if it'll handle it. Try to get it started straight and see if this thing will actually go in there. Seems to be doing all right. I can feel a little bit of flex. You see that flex in the handle there as we're using this? So not the greatest feel, but the screwdriver itself seems to be holding up. It's a little soft. You can see I've kind of already tweaked it just a little bit. I know that may be a little tough to see on camera. It's a little more than just scratch paint. It really has kind of mangled it just a bit, and this is just one simple screw. This is where that 2CR steel is just not great. I wish they would upgrade it a little bit. So the next thing that I wanted to look at was the pliers and the wire cutters. I had some real trouble using these. So I've got a couple pieces of wire. We're going to go 10 gauge stranded and then 12 gauge stranded. So first the 10 gauge. And it doesn't all, but you can see, man, does it crush it. And I really had to put something behind that too. That wasn't just a simple push through, but it really mangled that up. So earlier I was trying this and I had to actually cut into it a couple of times. You see, I just got it right that first time, I guess. If I go down a little bit lower, I can get through it. But it really, really, really mangles that up. If we jump down to 12 gauge, it does a little bit better. You can still see that because there's no relief behind those cutters, it just doesn't do a fantastic job. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any hard wire in front of me right now, but I've tried those hard wire cutters, and they don't work that great. And I think part of the reason is, even in the closed position, they don't bypass one another. I like the fact that they have that little indentation there so that you can trap those hard wires, but they really should have it where it still will bypass one another. So it's a little tough to use, and you really feel the flex in the handles when you're bearing down on this. And you can see I get some flex in the handle on this particular tool. Now, this one is one that I was really surprised by. This little striker and whistle, they actually work. So I'll just try to set that up there. Well, it's not throwing the best of sparks, but it does work. And you can see that I've kind of scratched up the spine of that thing. But it also has a little integrated whistle. It works pretty decent as well. So that's kind of surprising. This is actually done a little better than the Leatherman Signal, if you ask me. I like this version better than what the Leatherman Signal has on it. Now the saw blade. The saw blade is terrible, boys. It is terrible, terrible. And part of that reason is because they have the teeth going. Here's the Roxon Storm. I was really impressed with this saw. First of all, let me explain something. So the saw itself, usually you'll have a back taper towards the spine on a saw. So when you're cutting through, especially on wetter wood, you don't jam the saw. This particular one does not have that, nor does the Spark version. But I was really impressed how well this one actually cut. It cut really well. This is more of a straight design, more in kind of the way Victorinox does theirs, where this one is just a pull cut. And it was awful. I'll try to just demonstrate it a little bit. Always catching on, or I said pull, it's a push saw. So it'll cut on the forward stroke. I finally got it to get it to go, but it's not cutting at all. I'm putting a little bit of pressure on there, and it's just not working. It's just not. So the saw blade on here is a really, really poor saw. If they would have designed it a little bit more like their the Storm version of this saw, then they would have been a lot better off. Well, let's try to highlight the good things about this multi-tool first. Well, some of the things that I like about it anyway. First of all, I like the handle configuration. I think that it feels pretty nice. It feels pretty, I don't know, it's grippy. For this particular multi-tool, I just think it works. I like the fact that it has an integrated pocket clip. I love the fact that it has this mechanism for locking in all these three tools, unlike the other version of Roxon, which does not have that locking feature. I like the blade shape design. I like the fact that it has the integrated whistle and ferrocerium rod, even though this may not be the best of ferrocerium rods. I like the fact that the pliers are spring-loaded, even though they're not the greatest of pliers. Now, some of the things that I do not like. First of all, let's stay with the pliers. I forgot to highlight the kind of the needle nose and the regular plier functionality does work pretty decently on here. And though there's a little bit of flex in those pliers, you can still get some stuff done with them. So I don't want to take anything away from it for that reason. With the pliers, I don't like the fact that it has a little bit more flex than I like. And you get that with spring-loaded pliers, and it's kind of across the board. Even with some of the better brands, they have trouble. It's just the nature of the spring-loaded pliers. Do not like the cutters, nor the hardwire cutters. I don't think that they're just not going to do a very, very good job. Now, the rest of the pliers will do just fine. Let's go back to the blade. Do not like the softer blade steel in this. If they could have gone up to at least a 5CR13 MOV and brought the price up, the price point is very attractive to a lot of people at $25, but I would have rather seen better blade steel and better tool steel overall and brought the price range into, I don't know, the $40 range, somewhere in there. It would have been a much better multi-tool, and it would still have been worth its price. The next thing that I don't like is the fact that they don't have a large flat driver on here to double as a pry tool as well. All they give you is this smaller flat driver. The Phillips driver design on this tool, because it's such a cheap tool, I'm okay with that if they would have had a little better steel in here. If they would have had a 3CR instead of a 2CR in this, might have worked out a little better. I still think it would have been a little soft though. Maybe not. 3CR probably would have worked out a little better. But, you know, it'll work. It'll do a decent amount of light duty task without any issue. It's kind of the same. Now, it's not really on par with the Wingman Sidekick series, because they actually have a much thicker, much more robust screwdriver than even this on their flat portion, but they're in kind of the same concept. You know, overall, is it worth its money? I don't know. I'm probably going to say yes. And I think this is probably a good entry-level multi-tool. If you have somebody, you know, that just wanting to, you know, a young man who's just getting started, a young boy, you want to give him his first multi-tool, but you don't want to break the bank because, well, we know how boys treat their stuff. Then I would say, yeah, this is probably a really good option for that. I like the fact that it has a pocket clip integrated into it, and it has some decent functionality. $25, you know, especially, you're not going to get a knife that's going to be ultra sharp that they're going to just mangle themselves either, because this knife ain't going to do it. But nonetheless, I think this could be a good starter multi-tool. Would I recommend it for somebody who's been into multi-tools for a while, or who's using it as a work tool? I would say no. It just doesn't do enough, and the price reflects that. Sometimes the old adage is true: you get what you pay for, and it's most certainly true of the Roxon Spark. That being said, for the right person, it could be the right multi-tool, especially for those that are just getting started. Well, this has been a look at the Roxon Spark. My name is Ben. You've been watching the Texas Tool Crib. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.